This was supposed to be historic. TNA on AMC, a network debut you dreamed about and waited for a long time for them. And somehow this show felt like it was made only for people who already knew everything and nobody else. Let's talk about what went right, what went wrong, and how a night this important slipped through their fingers. Welcome back to the Tea Drop Strong Brew, No Soft Behavior. I'm Arrow, and yes, this one's frustrating because the opportunity was massive. And I'm going to say right here and now, every time these companies get a new contract with a new TV deal, their first show so far in the past couple years been always a miss. Netflix on Raw on Netflix last year, TNA this year, when AEW moved their shows to HBO Max, the new USA SmackDown, when they went to Fox. It's always been an issue. And I don't know why. You want to start strong, but they didn't. You guys can say Netflix on Raw was great, but it wasn't. It was mediocre. They should have gone harder. And then they had an opportunity last 2 weeks ago or whatever for the Stranger Things Raw, and that was mediocre too. Let's not promote it as a Stranger thing because we expect more, and it was just an average Raw. But anyway, let's continue with the promise they made for us that night. The opening video does its job, big names, big moments, big energy to kick off people excited with a video package. Because that's what you're mostly going to get from this week's TNA. It feels at first like a major show, then we get a surprise to kick things off, obviously. Out comes AJ Styles. Short, sweet, to the point, no wasted motion. He tells the crowd to keep the energy up because they are TNA. And honestly, that part landed. But here's the thing. If AJ Styles is your opening voice on AMC, that's a signal moment. And the show never really capitalized on it again. Just sad. We get our first match between Hardy's Elijah going against the Order 4. Elijah and the Hardys versus the Order 4. Fast brawl, classic Hardys offense, cool visuals with the double twist of Fade and Swanton finish. Starting hot isn't a bad idea, but starting a 2026 AMC debut with the Hardys going over a younger group, that's where the doubt creeps in. But if we want to be fair, but people wouldn't know this until they understood the show. Saturday of this week, they had Genesis pay-per-view. So obviously, they weren't going to drop the belts before a pay-per-view. But if that's the case, why do this? Anyway, at some point, the Hardys have to stop being the foundation for TNA, and I'm not sure TNA knows what replaces them yet. But hopefully they will in the weeks to come. Eventually, in the post-match of this, we get a little chaos. Because why not? Let's take a playbook from other companies. Agent Zero attacks, who is part of the Order 4. He attacks the Hardys after the match. But then, the Righteous make the save, then immediately turn on the Hardys and wreck them. That part actually worked, though. Clear angle, clear direction. Hopefully we see more of this in the weeks to come, but we will see. Here's where the problems start stacking. We're nearly, by the way, 45 minutes into this show, and only one match has happened. Now, this feels very WWE. Sometimes they do that, but you would hope they make not the same mistake. But we get some big stories through these 45 minutes. One of them is, as we spoke about before, the Righteous turning. Daria Ray, formerly Sonya Deville in the WWE, debuts in TNA, and she becomes an authority figure. So her and Santino Marella are both authority figures on the same show, on the same TNA brand. TNA, I don't think, has another show besides Impact and their pay-per-views. So how they're going to work this out, who knows? Maybe Sonya will be in charge of the women's division, while Santino will be responsible for the men's. I think that's going to be developing story as the weeks come through and we find out what is what. What's going on, DDH? As part of Daria Ray's first order of business, she signs a new talent. And it's none other than Alina Black, who is formerly NXT's Cora Jade. So she signs in for TNA. She is part of TNA now. And, we get little to no explanation of why. I'm sure we'll get it in the few weeks to come. But like I said, we're going to get a lot of new eyes to TNA now that it's on AMC, because before it was on a third tier program that not many people have unless you have cable. And if you do have cable, you need to have a certain specific cable package in order to watch TNA. It was that hidden, the show, before they moved to AMC. So unless you follow them religiously on the internet or some shape or form, you will be lost on what's going on. You don't know who Santino Marella is. It would have been nice he explains who he was. Luckily for us, if you were following TNA, you have some idea who he was through the invasion storyline that they've been having this past year. But anyway, this show assumes you already know everything about TNA and NXT. If this is your first time watching this because it's on AMC, you're going to be lost. But it is what it is. We move on. Now, eventually, AMC, to show how cool they are, they cut to the crowd and they do crowd shots, and you see, unfortunately, a lot of empty seats. That's not a crowd problem, that's a camera decision problem. It's also management problem, probably, because usually when the first thing you would do is to tarp out the empty seats. You'll black them out. Now, if there's gaps between all of these people, you push everyone forward to make it look full. You especially want to make sure you do that on your first national broadcast premiere of your show. So I don't understand, from working with WWE in the past years, or even working with AEW in the earlier years before they started working with WWE, they didn't learn this tactic because those two companies do it perfectly well when they have a slow run of talent on their show. They will tarp out the seats and push everyone forward. Hey, why would people complain? It's free upgrade and you don't have to pay. So they should have done that if they wanted to do this camera panning. They show celebrities showing up. They show influencers showing up. There's a lot of wrestler influencers that show up, reactionary streamers, and so on and so forth. They are excited to be there, which is great. Nothing bad about that. Not whatsoever. And they're strategically thinking how to spread the voice of TNA. And what better way to use reactionary streamers, talent, athletes, so on and so forth. They're pulling the same card as WWE does very well and AEW tries to do as well. But this whole tarp on the seat situation should have been done. And yes, I do also miss the old ring in TNA. It was the one unique thing that they had that made them different than the other brands. On a debut night, you need to protect this illusion. You don't want to expose it. At least not yet. Now we move on to the Elegant brand segment. Feeling like a weird time warp. We have Paris Hilton, a mystery Mr. Elegance, and a Knockouts tag title match that barely had time to exist. The inspiration, or for some that don't know them, the Iconics, lose the titles in a match that never gets momentum. I get the idea. Title change equals importance. I get it. But you still need the match to mean something. This didn't. They won it. Now, The Iconics or the Inspiration contract with TNA is done. They're not re-signing. Don't know where they're going. Maybe they're going to AEW. I don't know if they're going back to WWE. I don't think they need them right now, but you never know. Chances are they're going to AEW. Maybe they'll go to New Japan. Who knows? We'll see. But we move on. Now, it's very clear that they had some recurring issues in this show that I don't even want to bother talking about. All I can say is that all of it, if they have these issues, they should look at it ahead of the show and basically treat it like homework. You got homework to do before this show starts, especially on national TV. The scale is bigger. The same way I said during the Sports Illustrated video that if AEW is being crowned as 2025's promotion of the year, people are going to have more eyes on it because they were nominated that. So the ball's in their court to make sure they keep that relevance for the coming year. The same thing goes with TNA. You got a major national contract and you gotta show up. You gotta be concise. You gotta want people to come back. You're dealing with the same issue as us content creators with YouTube. If we don't engage you strong enough, we will lose the audience. You guys got more power to figure it out. You probably have a bigger team than I do for writing. I write myself. I'm a great writer. So you guys have no excuse. Anyway, we move on. We finally get some other segments. We have a little segment with the women's champion who didn't even wrestle in this show, which is a shame. Instead of having women tag team, we should have had a really good singles women's match because the Knockouts division is probably one of the best divisions of women's wrestling in this country. They've inspired the women's division in WWE. It was the Knockouts who pushed it further in our era of wrestling. And they should have been the main focus instead of just showing us video package. That's all they did. They showed us video package after video package. There were only 3 matches in this show, by the way. A 2-hour show, 3 matches. Everything else was video packages or small segments like this with the women's champ. She wrestled at Genesis. Xia Li, formerly Xia Li. I think she won. I didn't watch Genesis. After watching this, I didn't have any wants to watch it. So they are going against each other for Genesis. I think Xia Li won. I don't even know what they call her in TNA. But anyway. More random segments that I don't care to talk about. So we just going to focus what everyone probably went to watch this show. Probably the biggest thing besides AJ Styles showing up. And it's this match. Frankie Kazarian versus Mike Santana for the TNA World Championship. Frankie took the belt from Santana at the end of last year after such a short reign, which feels like disrespect on Santana, but hey, here we are. They wanted to make a big moment for TNA. Thankfully, this was a great match, but they should have not only focus on this. They should have focused on the whole TV show. But anyway, we finally get to focus on the main event: Mike Santana versus Frankie Kazarian, with obviously Nick Nemeth lurking around because he has their version of Money in the Bank. And this part of the show was actually solid. We finally get a recap explaining why this match matters, and then we move on to the world title match itself. The match itself was fine. Santana, as always, charisma for days. That's why he's one of the silent greatest right now. Kazarian, as always, feels like a champion hanging on by a thread. Santana wins the title back, which, frankly, he never should have lost. But the drama, right? That's what we needed, the drama for people to invest in wanting to watch him win it again. So now he's a 2-time TNA World Champion. It felt like waiting for the inevitable rather than riding the emotion. And if AJ Styles was already interacting with both men earlier, why wasn't he on commentary instead? That's probably the biggest misses I saw. He reacted to both of them backstage. He had a more stern talk with Frankie, but then he was more encouraging to Santana. It could have been nice for him to be in ringside, do commentary. I'm sure he would have loved to do that. But I don't know why he didn't and why his involvement in this show is so limited. I don't know if WWE doesn't want him to be that heavily involved, which is messed up because whenever WWE needs someone from TNA, they show up, but whatever. Anyway, the commentary casually mentions that Nick Namath, obviously, shows up and he tries to cash in. He failed. He failed cashing in. But now we get him involved in Genesis, and which now he's going to be a guest referee. And in Genesis, these two fight again for the Texas Death Match with a Texas Death Match. Frankie Kazarian going for that rematch clause. And I'll tell you right now, Santana wins. That's the one thing I know that happens in Genesis. Santana is still the TNA World Champ. And I'm sure we'll hear from him in the weeks to come. We barely see anything inspirational about this show. Like, such a bad start. They wanted to focus more, they had more focus on Dixie Carter showing up, the woman that pretty much almost destroyed TNA, and have a nice moment with Dixie. Yeah, he tried to cash in and lost. They had more focus on this thing right here. She showed up, she did her talk. People were literally booing at her. They don't want her anymore. The fact that she showed up, so annoying. And then Bubba Ray shows up, Bully Ray in TNA, and he hugs her when they had history of hatred towards each other. I'm like, okay, whatever. She shouldn't have showed up. She almost destroyed this company. Let's not forget that. All right. So let's be a little generous. The good of TNA Impact, we have Santana back as champion. Bringing Sonya Deville and Cora Jade has a potential future. What exactly, I don't know. But they're good. So let's see what happens. Agent Zero looking legit when he messed with the Hardys. So another potential positive. But that's all I have for the positive. The bad is no way to onboard for new viewers. No onboarding for new viewers. No way to connect them to make them want to stay for the weeks to come. Long stretches of segments and videos with barely any wrestling. Again, 3 wrestling matches in a 2-hour TNA. No one can laugh at WWE anymore. TNA just did as badly. We had an okay tag title match and a weak one with the women's. We can't complain about the women's tag division in WWE. At least they're pushing it. This felt rushed in whatever, the women's one, and I get it because of the Iconics or the inspiration leaving, but they could have left on a good note with a really good match. If not, don't do the match. We had a confusing authority angle between Sonya and Santino that we probably won't find out more clarity until the following week. So maybe that's one negative plus positive because now we have a reason to go back if we really care about that type of angle. And they use nostalgia in place of clarity. They use AJ Styles. They did the video segments to just get us in our feelings, even though some people may not know those feelings since they probably never watched TNA before. For a debut, this felt like more of a finale, a sweet swan song to TNA instead of a beginning of a new generation. And that's the biggest sin of it all when it comes to this show. And I'm hoping maybe I'm not the only one. There's so many people complaining about this show. Maybe on live it was positive because all the people that went there live had only but positive thoughts to feel. But I don't think when you go live and you see it there, it feels like a different product versus when you go watch it on TV because well, you don't see all the in between. And I'm surprised because if with 3 matches, you might have been bored between all those segments, not doing anything. But anyway, we'll see what TNA gives us in the next couple of weeks. Maybe if we stick through this for a month, maybe it'll get better. If not, I don't know if I want to continue watching TNA, and I'll just go back to what I used to do, watch the highlights. But anyway, that's a tea drop. Strong brew, no soft behavior. Was this a missed opportunity, or can TNA course correct before the next show? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.